Mark.
What's happening?
did, did I miss the Hokey Pokey tournament?
I won it. I won
Okay.
it. I brought it home.
um, I know where you get that from, by the way. Um,
No.
uh, we are now like waist deep into Dark Crisis. We are at the end. Well, there'll be a wrap up issue, but we basically complete the search for Barry Allen. So we'll talk about that in just a second, and then we'll also see what's going on within the Young Justice world, and we will do all of that right after we take a look at this. Okay, so it's
I love
Dark
that intro.
Crisis on Infinite Earths. Although the tie-ins still just say Dark Crisis, but I'm sure that will change.
We'll see.
Um,
We'll
yeah,
see.
the next issue of Dark Crisis does promise to have on Infinite Earths on it. So, um,
Are you going to go
uh,
back and repurchase 1 through 3 when they re-release them with the full trade header thing on it?
am I going to?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking? I might, but I might just get the foil ones because they're in foil. They're coming out in foil.
Oh, no, they're really, really twisting our arms. I like it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's a dumb question. I didn't know they were foil. So for those that don't know, Paul will be buying those.
Because I am like a moth to flame
Yeah.
when it comes to foil. So.
Mhm.
But let's start with this. Oh, actually, before we get started, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to comment down below because we will be having a huge giveaway. Make sure you
Huge.
go over. Make sure you go over to Mark's channel as well. Make sure you subscribe to him as well. So we are Dark Crisis, Young Justice. We are halfway through now, and this issue I thought was much better than the last issue.
Yes, most
Um,
definitely.
but we start exactly where we ended the last issue. We basically have the triumvirate of Lex Luthor and Captain Boomerang and Darth and Deathstroke over Cassie, and they're met by Tim Drake and Impulse and Connor Kent. So
Yeah, it was super
uh,
cool. So the Captain Boomerang thing, I just want to point out that was extra cool because he's drawn in the same style that he was drawn in the last time we saw him in Identity Crisis. Where he's washed out, overweight, balding. So because for a long time there, his son was Captain Boomerang, and I honestly, now that I think about it, I can't tell you who's Captain Boomerang. I believe that this is Captain Boomerang currently in comics that
right.
along with a reset, but this is the Captain Boomerang that died. And I'm like,
Right.
they drew him like that too. I thought that was amazing.
Right. And they start off right off the bat by basically telling us that, there's Impulse is like there's something wrong here. These three people have never teamed up before, but
Mm-mm.
they each mean something to each one of us. Right? Deathstroke basically blew off Impulse's knee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Captain Boomerang killed Tim's father, right?
Mm-hmm.
As part of Identity Crisis, I believe
Identity
it was, right?
Crisis. Yeah.
And then Conrad Kent has never gotten over the fact that he's part Lex
Lex,
Luthor.
Lex is his daddy.
Exactly.
Papa Lex.
So Impulse is like harping on this, saying this is, and Conrad Kent wants nothing to do with this. He's like, no, this isn't it. And, Tim is like, we can talk about that after. Like, we got to go and save, Cassie first. So they
Yeah, the
basically jump right
personalities
in.
really came out. Like she did. All right, the writer did a fantastic job in this issue, like she did in the first, writing each character very unique. They all do not have the same voices; they have their own. And the way that they responded to this threat, it really showed that really well. Like you pointed out, Robin's like, "This is what's in front of us. We have to deal with this here and now." And like Superboy's out to lunch though. Like I thought that was. It's just I feel bad for him. I like Superboy, and he's just clocked out. He's
Right.
lost the plot.
Which kind of, I mean, he when he first appeared as part of the Death of Superman, he was kind of like an airhead in a lot of ways,
Yeah,
right?
he had other
So
things on his mind at the very least.
yeah, exactly. So he was all about the image of whatever he was, and it was like
Mhm.
so he was very superficial, and so all he
Very.
could see was what was in front of him and not what the meaning was behind what he was saying. So that kind of again goes with how the author is writing this. And so they all start in, and so we end up having the big battle between the three of them. And Cassie is like, "Go Young Justice," she's like cheering in the background, and that's when Impulse says, is she controlling us? um and so then it becomes kind of almost a war between Impulse and Cassie, and trying to convince the other two, who it is, who's right.
Yeah, and there's a couple of telling moments as well during the fight. So
Right.
You had Impulse get Slade dead to rights, like he had a gun on him, taking him down. And you have Cassie urging him to kill Deathstroke. He's like, that's not us. As well, during the fight, there's a moment where he turns around, he can actually see it was almost like he's hallucinating little dots, like map dots, leading one character their pathway through this fight. Like he's catching things that are outside of reality here.
Right. And Cassie goes asks Impulse, don't you wish that you could stop Deathstroke for once and for all and keep him from doing all the bad things, that he's going to do in the future? Which is the age-old question that gets asked, right, to superheroes. Why don't you just stop it once and for all, so nothing bad this person can never do anything bad anymore again? And Connor says, yeah, why don't you do that? You answer her question, and then that's when they kind of get into it again, and Tim has to then jump in the middle between those two. And that's when he kind of realizes that, okay, there may be something off here. If suddenly now they're fighting amongst themselves, something's off here.
Yeah, and then the fight amongst themselves, and the villains have vanished.
Right. Right. The villains are gone. And so then it's just basically it's just the three of them with Cassie now, and they're now arguing what's going on. They basically are saying, Tim is saying, we need more information. We can't just go on what we see. We need more data to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And that just drives Impulse crazy. And he says, you guys listen to each other, but you never want to listen to me. And so you never have. And he takes off. That's when Connor tells Tim, don't bother with Bart. And Tim's like, what do you mean don't bother? Maybe he's right. And they keep having some more discussion, and then suddenly Cassie says, that Connor doesn't remember what happened after he died, does he? And that sets off something in Connor saying, what do you mean exactly? What's going on there? So we flash to Bart, who's running through the city, and it's almost like
that was funny.
Yeah,
we flashed to Bart.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go. He's running, and suddenly, he looks around and he sees that the world around him looks as though it's loading in a computer program almost.
Black and white, and it's not all complete. And as he stops, he's watching it catch up to him and reality fill in around him.
Right. And so then now he knows that something's off. Okay. And that's when Cassie appears. And Bart basically says, you know what? I don't know who it is that's in charge of this world. You seem to know what's going on. But, you guys have basically underestimated me, and that he's not going to sacrifice anything anymore. And she's like, okay. And so she pulls a Thanos, right? And she snaps her fingers. Okay. Which is telling, because we have there are three snaps. There's one at the end of the next 2 pages as well, one for each of the Young Justice. But we've been told who is in charge of this world because we've seen the solicitations down the road. Okay, it's Mickey Mxyzptlk, and if we didn't know, Mxyzptlk, one of the things he was famous for was doing the snap, right, and changing things. So it's kind of sad that we actually know who's doing this now, because you can read the
start seeing the writing on the wall. They're kind of dropping the hints in there.
Right, exactly. Then we go to Cassie is now with Tim Drake, right? So when Cassie snaps her fingers. Bart apparently disappears. Now they're talking to. Now he's talking to. Cassie's talking to Tim, and saying she's saying you always wanted to be Batman. And in this world you can be Batman. What's the point if you can't be Batman? And he's like, well, what if I just want to go back to where I was anyway? And she's like, yeah.
No arguing with him. It was cool seeing that she's actually getting resistance from him in different ways as well. Like they're starting to feel it, because they were kind of blinded to it in the last issue.
Right. So then we go to Cassie and Connor, who Cassie thought she had the best chance with to convince him to stay. And she's like, here you get to live. All this could be yours. What more could you want? And that's when he realizes that Bart was right. Okay. And she's like, she's very put off by it. She's like, wow, thanks a lot. Very teenage girl. She's like, don't make me do this. He's going to be mad. And he says,
Ooh.
Who? And she goes, oh, snap. And she's, and so she snaps again. And suddenly now the three of them are in some sort of containment, it seems like, or at least all together in the same room. Right.
Yeah.
And Cassie appears to them and says, I've tried the nice way to get you guys to, to stay here and enjoy it. But now if I have to, I'll force you guys to stay here. And then that's when we see in the final panel of the issue, the Justice League, Teen Titans, anyone you could possibly think of.
The 1990s Justice League at that.
Right. Yep.
The pre-Jeff Johns Teen Titans.
Yeah, we got Aquaman with his harpoon. Kyle Rayner. This is the Grant Morrison Justice League.
It was really cool. So yeah, that last little conversation with them when she had them back on the watchtower, it had me like on the edge of my seat. I was expecting them to like do the reveal at that point. And I thought that was a really cool little touch to turn the page and to be throwing heroes at him this time. The villains weren't enough to push him over the edge, and she's acting like this is it. Oh well, we tried, but she's still trying. She's still trying. Right. So it makes me wonder how bad it's going to get for this false Cassie if she fails at this. She's clearly not the antagonist we need to be worrying about.
Right. And this is only, they now know where they are, and so they know that they belong somewhere else, and that this is all fake, and that someone is doing this to them, and we're only halfway through the series. So this almost could be like a panel. The last panel would be like the last panel before the final issue, almost, it seems like. So it definitely is, we have a lot more to go. But that's pretty much what happens in Dark Crisis Young Justice, and that brings us to Dark Justice tie-in, The Flash, and the Search for Barry Allen, Part 3. So this wraps up for the most part. There'll be more of an actual wrap-up issue that'll come, but really the Search for Barry Allen kind of ends in this issue, and it starts actually on the regular Earth, or Earth Zero, in Mr. Terrific's lab, where he's talking basically to Linda Park.
Yeah, she's ready to go. She's got these powers. She knows her kids are missing. She's not giving him a break.
Yeah. Yep. And he tries to convince her not to go. And she's like, no, I'm going. And he's like, okay, having help anyone who tries to stand in your way. And so we end up on the Batman, the Dark Flash world with Wally's kids, and they're basically fighting against this guy Knives, or they're talking to this guy Knives, who happens to be the arch villain of the Dark Flash, or the Night Flash. Sorry. But we get some interesting things about exactly what happened with the lightning and the chemicals that happened on this Earth compared to what happened, in the Earth Zero. We find out that the chemicals here that went over, that ended up on Barry Allen, basically had a rejuvenation type of a compound to it. And so we end up with this guy Knives, who we think is a little kid, but Barry of this world ends up telling us that he's his oldest villain, who was
His name
created
is
basically
Benjamin,
at this. He's like what was the
Benjamin
movie
Button.
that. Yeah, exactly, Benjamin Button, right? Yep, yeah. He's getting younger as every year goes by. So
And that says a lot about how long he's been battling because he's definitely a kid now. And that
right.
added this level of like sadisticness to him as well. Seeing like when he kind of revealed himself to be the villain, like, yeah, that's kind of creepy.
Yeah, he kind of reminded me. He kind of looked like Doctor Psycho a little bit to me, like
He didn't say the
Doctor
word.
Psycho is like it's like this little tiny guy, right?
He didn't use Doctor Psycho's language though.
That's true. Yeah, yeah, nothing like we see on Harley Quinn, that's for sure. Uh, so then we jump to the Mad Max uh, Barry Allen, and
Yeah,
we
this is
find
really
out
cool.
that yeah, yeah, and we find out that basically there's one thing that this group that's chasing Barry Allen is looking for, and it's basically like a giant pearl that they're looking for, and it basically contains the last piece of magic that's left on that world, and the last bit of hope as well. And so they're looking to steal it, and to control it. And so what happens is the Barry Allen of this world, along with Jesse Quick and Max Mercury, they end up working with the Barry Allen of this world to defeat the Mad Max people.
It wasn't hard for him either. Like they're the only super powered people there. That was
Right.
short work they made of them.
Yes. And then we jump to the last Earth that we've seen in the past couple issues, which is where Wallace is, Ace. And if you remember when we left, the Barry Allen, the actual Barry Allen, was
Was
kind of
pouring
beating the
power.
snot out of Wally, right? And so we see that he's trying to convince him that it's him. Barry is not believing him, and so who comes to the rescue? But
Linda.
Linda Park comes in and delivers a right hand to the jaw of Barry Allen.
There was that one line when Barry was fighting Wally that really got me. As Barry's just pummeling Wally, Wally's not fighting back. He's seeing him as reverse flash, but Wally looks at him and says, "You told me you can never forget me." I'm like, "Ooh,
Right.
ooh, that rebirth line, ooh."
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
was-
Yeah. And I think we had talked to Jeremy Adams about that too. I think saying it's a nice juxtaposition of, you know, Barry saved Wally before, and now basically Wally and Linda are saving Barry. You know, so it was a great callback. So then they have to try and find Wallace, and so what they do is they do end up finding Wallace. But not before we find in the world of the Dark Flower, the Night Flash. We finally see Jay Garrick again.
Yeah, he done caught up with the kids, snatched up the Night Flash, thinking he was a bad guy, ready to save the kids, and they're good to go.
Yeah,
Jay.
exactly. Jay, you can always count on Jay. And then we see the Mad Max Flash, as you said, very quickly dispatching of the Mad Max people. He basically just kind of threw something into the ground. He basically tried to crush the Pearl. It basically did everything it needed to save the world, and then went back to where Wally is now, Wallace. And now they have to get Wallace away from the family that he's with, who suddenly have no eyes.
Yeah, it looks like whatever this entity is, the Great Darkness, is not happy to be losing the hold they have over the characters in this world.
Right,
Which is
and
kind
we
of weird
find
because we think we saw in the Hawk Girl that Pariah was heavily monitoring it, and now we see the Great Darkness heavily monitoring in this one and making a move to try to keep it as is, to keep the fuel for the fire going.
right, and Wally basically tells Barry what's going on, how the Justice League are gone, and now he doesn't believe they're dead either because they were able to find Barry, And so Barry decides that he's going to go and he's going to try to save the Justice League, and Wally is going to stay on Earth Zero and try to save Earth Zero from Pariah. Um, and so they do their race across, different dimensions and everything, and they end up back in Mr. Terrific's lab, and we get that final panel, which I can never get enough of, when they pictured the entire Flash family all together. Like, I can never get enough of seeing that, and basically Barry saying, actually Wally saying, we're going to save the world.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a cool line that Barry gave him. He's like, I'll go get the Justice League. You go home. The world needs the Flash. So we're still getting little nods at like the passing of the torch thing yet again, And so I'm kind of wondering what they're going to do with this, because I have these weird feelings, seeing Flash and Flash standing next to each other with just their slightly tinted different red costumes, like it sounds bad, but we need Barry to die. Like, we need him to go out in a lightning bolt of glory or something.
Yeah, how many times can Barry Allen save the universe? Wouldn't it be something if he could save it more than once?
Yeah. But it is cool all there.
Could be. And so that's where we end. Basically, it says that we'll see in the next issue, we'll see them working to save Earth Zero from Pariah. But the Barry part of the story is moving over to Dark Crisis proper. Issue number 4, which comes out not this week, but a week from Tuesday, I believe.
Yeah, like you mentioned to me earlier, I don't believe that there's any Dark Crisis tie-ins this coming week. Poor scheduling on their part. Poor scheduling.
Exactly. You give us 2 on 1 week and nothing another week. It's like,
I'm ready for a Flashpoint Beyond. That's what I'm ready for.
Oh, man. The fact that the JSA showed up in Dark Crisis, but the solicits for the new JSA say coming out of Flashpoint Beyond. I don't care what they say. They can say it all the time, that they're not connected.
That's the biggest Dark Crisis tie-in there is.
Exactly. Like, you're lying. You're just straight up lying.
They really want to surprise people with Dr. Manhattan, I'm telling you. Because, look, they've been teasing Dr. Manhattan. Then you have the JSA spinning out of the pages of that same book that Dr. Manhattan. Where they been? Why have they been gone?
Mm-hmm.
Because of Dr. Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see. Like, if he's not the Great Darkness, the blue eyes in the sky, he's going to be what comes into he's going to be the audible, like the random audible. He's got to show up somewhere.
Right. And if it ends up being that, the tie-in is there the whole time, and like they just didn't. I'm going to send Jeremy Adams the most snarky email. Like, you came on our show and you lied.
Classy move, Paul. Classy move. I approve.
Just kidding. We love Jeremy Adams.
Yeah.
Right. We'll have you back whenever you want, Jeremy.
Yeah.
But that basically does it for the two issues that came out this past week. Again, a week off, then we'll get back to Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, issue number 4, and then we'll go from there. So, anything else before we wrap it up?
Don't forget to hit that thumbs up, subscribe to this guy, and put it in the comments. The more you comment on these videos, and if you missed previous ones, go back, hit the thumbs up, and drop a comment on those as well. The more comments, the higher your chances are at winning that prize.
Mm-hmm. Which is, with every week that passes, gets bigger and bigger, because the prize is basically a complete Dark Crisis story, including all the associated tie-ins and even some surprise things we're going to be throwing in there. So that's going to do it.
Yeah.
Surprise! So I am Paul, and he is
Mark, but we
are Legion.
And you're now leaving Sector 2815.